Hello, church family. I've really been missing y'all. We're going to be doing a couple of live feeds from different people, just putting Jesus out there to as many people in the world as we can. Today's lesson is going to take place in Mark chapter 8, verse 1. Just kind of give you the setting. It says, Jesus feeds 4,000. It says, in those days, the multitude being very great and having nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples unto him and said unto them, I have compassion on the multitude because they have now been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I will send them away fasting to their own houses. They will faint by the way, for divers of them came from far. And the disciples answered him, from whence can a man satisfy these men with bread here in the wilderness? And he asked them, how many loaves have ye? And they said, 7. And he commanded the people to sit down on the ground. And he took the 7 loaves, and he gave thanks, and brake, and gave his disciples to set before them, and they did set before the people. And they had few small fishes, and he blessed and commanded to set them also before them. So they did eat, and they were filled, and they took up the broken meat that was left, 7 baskets. And they that had eaten were about 4,000, and he sent them away. And straightway he entered the ship with his disciples and came into the parts of Dalmanutha. Okay, that kind of gives us an idea of the miracle that Jesus can do if we put him in our lives. Now, the lesson that I wanted to go into is Jesus getting in the ship, which is going to be in Mark chapter 4 and verses 35. But I just wanted to let you know, Jesus was preaching to the multitude. He was tired. He said, let's go to the other side. So we're getting ready to take off in a boat. Okay? And I know on that same day, when there was even was come, he said to them, let us pass over to the other side. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. And there were also with him other little ships. And there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship, so that it was now full. And he was in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow, and they awake him, and say unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? And he arose and rebuked the wind, and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said unto them, Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith? And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, What manner of man is this that even the wind and the sea obey him? Okay. Now this is how it is with each one of us in our lives. We have a ship, but whose name is on the ship? You know, a lot of people in this day and age, they want to put their name on their ship, you know, and you're going to run into problems when you depend on yourself for things, just like the disciples did. You know, it says that in the scripture, you know, water's coming over the side of the ship. I never saw anything in here that said the disciples were trying to get the water out of the boat. You know, they waited until the boat was full before they reacted. And that's just like we do. You know, that water that's going into our boats and filling our boats up, that water is sin. And you know, when we first get a little water in, yeah, it may be cold and we're like, ooh, that's some sin right there. But, you know, eventually, if we don't get rid of that sin in our lives, it continues to grow. And the water in the boat gets fuller and fuller. And, you know, believe it or not, we kind of get accustomed and comfortable with the water. It's no longer cold to us. And that's where we run into problems, is not getting that sin out of our boat. And, you know, our country is the same way. You know, for so many years, you know, let's take God out of school. Let's take God out of, you know, our political parties and stuff. Let's just not mention God at all. But, you know, now we're faced with some tribulation. We've got COVID-19. We've got a virus to deal with. And guess what? The water's full. You know, we've got all kinds of things going on. But, you know, the water is up to our necks now, so guess what? Everybody is calling out to God. I mean, before, the only time you heard God on TV, it was using God's name in vain. Now people are asking people to pray, you know, pray to God. We need God now, just like the disciples in the boat. You know, today we can start a revival. You know, now that we've got social distancing, we've got all of this stuff to where we really can't do a whole lot of face communication and have crowds. We can pick up a phone and we can FaceTime. We got all this technology that we can introduce God to people. You know, even those that don't believe in God. You know, it don't matter if you don't believe in God. You know, back when we were small, we didn't believe that the stove was hot, you know, until we touched it and we knew it was hot. You know, God, he's going to work his perfect way. I mean, it says all things, not some things, all things work together for the good of them that are called to it according to his purpose. You know, and God, only God can take something like COVID-19 and humble his people. You know, and that's what's wrong with our world. We want to be on top. And it says, you know, if you're going to be first in my kingdom, you must be last. And all this time, everybody wants to do things their own way, you know, and if it's not their way, then they get upset. There ain't but one way, and that's God's way of doing things. You know, I've got a couple of scriptures, you know, that it's one of my favorite. It says, if, you know, when I was in school, I studied Latin. I probably should have taken Spanish, but anyway, I wanted to learn how to speak, so I took Latin, and this is one of the best examples of quid pro quo that I think I've come across, and it's in the Bible. In 2 Chronicles 7:4, it says, if my people, which are called by my name, now that's Christians, shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways. Here comes the then. We got to do the front part first before God can work his miracles on us. It says, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sins and heal their land. Guys, our land really needs healing. You know, I encourage you, you know, if you distance yourself from God and with everything going on, you put so many things and made them important in your life, and you just hadn't had time to fit God into the picture. It's time to reevaluate your boat to see how water-worthy it is. You know, you can't test a boat unless you put it in the water. And you know, right now, everyone's boat's in the water. And I want to know, are you getting wet in your boat? You know, if you're getting wet, then you need to make some changes and get rid of some of that sin. You know, in James 3:10, it says, out of the same mouth proceeds blessing and cursing. You know, a lot of prayers that people are praying, they're falling on deaf ears because, you know, you curse God one day, and now you're asking for God's blessing. You know, God is an awesome God. You know, just like, you know, our country, you know, it makes me think about the prodigal son. You know, he abused all of his father's blessings. And here's the good part. And he came to his senses. It's about time for our world to come to our senses and realize that, you know, our country was founded upon the principles that were set forth in the Bible. And now in our world, everything goes. And, you know, we're here to just try to appease people and make them happy. But we've forgotten about making God happy in the process. And God is unhappy. He's unhappy with his people, all of his people. We can all do better. So what we need to do, we need to get back to the basics. We need to learn how to bend those knees again. We need to realize that it's not our show. It's not about us. You know, I saw it on a license plate one time. God first, others second, and me last. And see, nobody around likes to be last. You don't take but about 5 minutes on the road, somebody's going to cut you off, and you figure, well, they don't want to be last. We always want to be first, but being first is God's place in all of our lives. We need to just realize that we have a sin problem, but God is our answer. In 2 Corinthians 4:18, it says, we are hard pressed on every side, yet not distressed. Oh man, that's great. That's what kind of peace you get with God. It says we are perplexed, but not in despair. It's a whole lot of people in this world right now that they don't really have hope. They don't have a God to turn to. They don't have families to turn to. A lot of people have lost their jobs right now. A lot of people they're down. They really need a hand from God to reach out and grab them to support them. Well, it's not too late. Like I said with the prodigal son, the father, no matter how we've turned our back on him, he's standing here with his arms stretched open wide, waiting to welcome us home, welcome us back, or maybe even for the first time. God works his best in the valleys, because in the valleys is where he can get our attention. When we're out there busy, everything is going great, we don't have time for him. But guess what? We had the best economy, crumbling. We had the best jobs, laid off. We need God in our lives. Folks, all you have to do is realize that, in Psalms 91, that's one of my favorite verses, and I'll turn over here and I'll read it real quick. Especially when things ain't going so good, it says, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. That's where I want to abide, under the shadow of the Almighty. It says, I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in him will I trust. It says, it didn't say that we're going to trust ourselves. It said we're going to trust God. God is the only way that we're going to get out of this messy situation that we're in right now. God is the only way that we're going to be able to hold these families together in their time of crisis, in their times of need. God is going to put people in the path of these people that need food, they need water, they need clothing, they need shelter. We have a need that only God can fill. That's a time for the churches to join together as one family. It's a time for people to join together as one people. We're the human race. God created us all, in the image of God. It's not a solo act. It's a God act. Sin has put us in this place. The virus didn't just stumble upon this place. God allows things. He's got the whole world in his hand. He didn't just turn his back. He knows that COVID-19 is out there. But you know what? He's going to leave it out there long enough to get everyone's attention, from the youngest to the oldest. Unfortunately, some people may have to die. That's the sad part. But if we get some people saved because they come to their senses, then all is not lost. Just like in the days of Noah. They didn't believe that it was going to be a flood. Noah, not only was he building the ark, Noah was preaching every day too to the people. Yet, after 120 years, God had had enough. Here it is. Now it's the flood, and God closed the door to the ark. All those people that didn't believe, guess what? They need a boat. We all need a boat. And we, in that boat, we need to have Jesus in our boat. So I'm asking y'all, if you don't have Jesus in your boat, it's not too late. You know, we serve a forgiving God, a good God, a God that we take for granted. And I'm just asking you, before it's eternally too late, you know, you feed your physical body. I'm asking you to feed your spiritual body. I'm asking you, while you're working on your 401k plans, you're working on trying to accrue assets here and now, how about stacking up some eternal assets that won't go away by putting your faith in God, by leading other people to Christ, by doing what you can? You know, by saying you're a Christian, that's one thing. But you should be known by your works. Not that works is going to save you, but by being saved, you will have good works. So what I'm asking y'all today is to examine yourself. You know, God says we should work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. Really take a look at your salvation. You know, if Jesus came back tonight, where would you be? You know, it's no do-overs. It's no, I'm sorry. I was going to get around to it. You know, today is the day of salvation. Get your boat ready, because it's coming. You know, we don't know when, but be ready. God tells us in His Word to watch and pray. Are we watching what's going on around us? And most importantly, are we praying to a good God, to a great God, to an almighty God, that we can all rest in His perfect peace? God bless you. Be safe. And please take this message with you the remainder of the week. I hope it changes somebody's life and leads someone to Christ. Thank you for your time.